Ikenna Okeh, the Nigerian writer, said something 3 weeks ago. Nigeria has low quality elites. Nigeria has low quality elites. And you would think it's coming from a place of arrogance or stuff like that, but no, it's coming from a place of deep observation. And there are a couple of comments in and about this particular post he made, but the post was very, very sunset. The same way he tends to write, short, direct, but from a very, very well observed standpoint. And it is that particular conversation I want us to look at today. How true is the situation that Nigeria has low quality elites? What is the situation on ground? What are the things that ordinarily drive people in and about to start thinking in this particular way, as to not wanting to become the real elites of society as we ordinarily should have them, as we ordinarily should get them running and get them rolling and get them walking, and see to it that they get to function as they ordinarily supposed to function. You just have to take a look at the infrastructure and the idea of soft power non-existent within the so-called elites, and you get to ask yourself as to you get to ask yourself, what do elites of other countries get to do that we at the moment aren't doing, or not even thinking of doing? Sponsoring programs, these are forms of soft power, and one of the ways of getting to sponsor programs is born out of using your resources to put and give back to the society. And giving back to the society is a lot. It's a lot, and it's a thing we are not doing. I don't think one is blabbing here when one gets to talk about a sense of the elites of our society. You might have them study abroad, you might have them study in different countries, and then they come back. But when they come back, they don't come back with the quality of ideas to advance the general populace of the people. They come back and they try to be very, very protective of what people have gotten and what people are at that particular point in time. So they shield themselves, they barricade themselves away from the people. The opportunity I've had, I don't want another person to get to have this opportunity. I don't want another person to get to look at this particular situation. I don't want another person to get to be like this, to be like that, to be like this. And in and about these are the conversations that lead us to say the things the way we get to say them, or to live the way we get to live, and to be the way we get to be as a people. You find this idea of wealth as status. The moment you have money, ill-gotten or was from whatever means, the moment you get the money, it becomes status. And this status doesn't go beyond buying here, buying there, doing this, doing that, and then it ends there. It doesn't go deeper than that. It doesn't go into thinking fun, using the ideas born out of this wealth and these situations to get to see how one can advance one's own society. You can see it in Owambe, you can see it in parties, you can see it in funerals, you can see it in election campaigns, you can see it in a couple of things, but it doesn't really go far. It doesn't go deep. It doesn't go deeper than what it is. It doesn't project itself as what it ordinarily supposed to project itself as. It doesn't do what money should do. The wealth they tend to achieve don't achieve what money ought to achieve, because money is just a means to an end. Shouldn't become like this status symbol and you get to leave it there. It's really the raw cash And back home we have raw cash. We have cash kept somewhere. We have this particular money kept somewhere. And even with this money, there comes the lack of quality of ideas, and you begin to ask yourself, why don't we have the ideas to propagate and project ourselves in certain ways as opposed to the ways we now come to tell ourselves that we're supposed to be. And it goes to tell us how things have become crazy in a situation, because the ideas our leaders try to propagate are not leaders, are so-called elites. We might want to call them leaders, are supposed to investing into think tanks and investing in the arts and investing in festivals and investing in things that promote the culture, investing in magazines and investing in books and publishing and the likes of these particular conversations. You find our guys at the top investing in things that sometimes leaves you worried and asking too many questions as opposed to what it ought to be and how it ought to look like and how it's supposed to be. And it leaves me questioning a whole lot of issues in our country and in a part of the world as opposed to what ought to be. Ideas should be promoted, and they should be promoted rightly. And the elites that have the money and they have the funding should be at the helm of affairs, trying to see that this particular thing is promoted as opposed to showmanship. Showing and spraying money doesn't make you an elite. It doesn't make you a person of influence or a person of importance in a sane country. Throwing money around, I mean, the unwarranted display and the splashing of cash and the mutilation of the naira is a thing we see a whole lot in our so-called big men, and it's a troubling situation that needs all the attention it needs, and that needs all the guidance it needs, and that needs all the support it needs to see to it that it ends, and to see to it that it doesn't continue, and to see to it that it doesn't get to how do you say it, flourish. It doesn't get to grow and continue in that particular direction. It doesn't get to continue the way things are. Many persons feel and think the mutilation of the naira cannot stop, but that is not the case. As opposed to that reality, culture should get to adjust itself to people, and not people adjusting themselves to culture. It shouldn't be the other way around. It should be this other way around, and it should be a thing we come to really take seriously. And money should serve the people and not the other way around. Mark Twain wrote, "How much land does a man need?" many years ago, and then you think about it today, and it still resonates. How much money does a man need? How much land does a man need apart from the place to be buried? And even the place to be buried, does a man need it to be that deep? Does a man really need it to be that deep? These are the conversations many persons are failing to really look at when they talk about our elites. And you think, oh, it's his money. He should spend the money however he wants to spend it. The money belongs to him. He has the right to do this. He has the right to do that. He has this. He has the right to use the money however he wants to use the money. But he doesn't have the right to use the money and oppress people. He doesn't have the right to use the money to close the doors of progress of other persons. He still owes decency a thing to manage himself and manage his estate well and manage himself well, so he doesn't go about inflicting pain on others and inflicting pain on those he's not supposed to be inflicting pain on. You don't think so? That's one of the job of the elites, to see to it that those around him, not the immediate family alone, get to progress, and they get to progress well. The lack of thought, the lack of foreseeable future as to how the country can grow would also point you to the direction where you find our leaders. constantly send their children abroad to schools that are 200, 300, 400, 500, 600 years old, 700 years old, as the case may be. Institutions of learning, monasteries, gymnasiums, and the likes of this. And you tell yourself, don't they really think when they do these things? When Oji Uzokalu wants to send his children to Cornell or to the universities they get to find themselves, and they brag of a first masters, a second masters, and the likes of that, don't they think that these things can be things done back home? Don't they think that, there who are quote unquote big men have a duty to the average man? They don't think about that. And then you read the comment sections of this particular stuff, you come to see to it that, as much as there are lots of elites that are low thinking, there are still exceptions to those who want to do things and do them well, to the point whereby the exception almost doesn't thrive, doesn't move, because who really cares about the few persons that say one or two things here that appear to make sense and that appear to look plausible and look sensible? It gets swallowed by the great chunk of the irresponsible. I want to be very slow with that, but still the irresponsible chunk of people that think the mere fact that you have money then makes it and leaves you in this place whereby nothing really works. You should be championing how to project your nation and your country, first within the continent, and then second within the global playground. And this can only be done if you actually really look at yourself and tell yourself that your country is not really where it's supposed to be. It's not doing what it's supposed to be. And in order for it to do that, it needs to invest in the arts. Literature has to be given a place of priority and in and about that kind of conversation. But it's not a conversation many persons are having. And you see festivals carried out abroad. Chimamanda has just recently been awarded in Germany an award first of its kind. And then you ask yourself, that's somebody who actually resisted the Nazis and resisted a whole lot of issues and tried to see to it that, the person came to make sense of the life and the situation the person finds himself in that particular situation. And in and about that are the things we are not really even looking at the moment. We ought to look at this, and we are not looking at it, and it's a concern, and it's a problem, and it's a great difficulty, and it's a great issue we ought to look at, and we ought to celebrate, and we ought to be doing it. Be an elite means you understand the place of investing in your country and not stashing money in different buildings and in different GP tanks at your backyard or in your house, or keeping raw cash at home, stifling the economy. Because what you don't really understand is that it takes more money to print money. So let's say we are printing 10 million naira. It most likely will take you more to print 10 million naira at the go. So when a big man takes this 10 million naira and keeps in his house, he stifles the sense of growth and the sense of belonging of a lot of persons, because this money should exchange hands. This money should go back and forth, and then when it goes back and forth, it pays off its printing cost. And for currencies such as Nigerian currency, the naira, that has too many colors and has to do with too many color separations, you get to see the difficulty it takes to actually maintain such amount of money. So that when you talk about the exception of those who actually try to do things, you still look around and you ask yourself that we don't have libraries. There are no libraries. Have you seen a library? in your village in Nigeria, a standard stable library with library cards and the likes of that, where you can track books and track people who took books out of the library and those type of conversations. Have you seen museums in your part of the world? Have you seen extracurricular centers and civic centers built up in your places? Of what use are there even where you even get to have this type of civic centers and this type of conversations? Have you seen to the development of your people? Have you seen to the growth of your people? Have you seen to the involvement of the leadership structure of your people? Have you seen to different issues happening in your country? Have you seen to it that things get better? If you have not seen to these things and you claim to call yourself a big man and an elite in your country, I am sorry. I have no sympathy for whatever prestige or whatever pride you try to want to have in your head. The work is a lot, and the work is a lot. It doesn't need too much talking. It needs action. We don't have libraries, we don't have roads, we don't have proper institutions and well-structured ones at that. We need more than what we have at the moment, and we need that now. We don't need it tomorrow. We need it now. We need it to be done now, like now, like tomorrow, like next week, like next month, and stuffs like that. You know, about these are the things I think we should be doing, and we should be doing right, and we should be doing well, and we should be drafting and hoping to get to see that they get to happen, and they get to happen well, and they get to happen strongly, and they get to happen brightly, and they get to happen to the places they ought to happen. In and about these are the things I hope to see change, and I also hope, and I know this is what Ikenna also hopes, that our elites come to look at our roads, and come to look at our public imaging, and come to look at the way we are projected, you know, as this place of crime, as this place of corruption. We're not as corrupt as America. Nigeria is not even half as corrupt as America. We're not even, as a continent, Africa is not even as closely corrupt as Europe. But that's a conversation for another day. Where do you think these words originated from? Were they in our dictionary, sense of corruption, like real-time corruption? Were they stuff we had in our dictionary? No. They were learned. There were things we got to, you know, absorb from outside, and we got to take from outside, and we got to keep within ourselves. These are not things born out of our people. These are not things our people were used to. I am not excusing our people, but there are certain type of forms of theft or forms of public stealing that were not common to us as a people, and we've seen them happen in our time, and we've seen them happen around us. Not because they were there, but because we've come to learn them, and still you cannot really learn more than you cannot come to learn more than those who get to who taught you one way or the other. You know, it can happen, but the generality of the situation doesn't point to that particular reality. It's not a lived reality that I want you to look into and to tell yourself about. It is not the case. It is not the case. It is not the case. And we should think outside the box. That's what Ikenna's post is trying to call us and call our attention to. We should think outside the box. We should think outside the box and think outside the box, and not just leave ourselves within the sphere of our life and our existence down there. That is it. That is it. I don't want us to dwell long on the issue, but look around your situation, look around your country, look around the place where you find yourself, and tell yourself the truth. And we had a very, very long conversation with Ikenna Okeh for my podcast, and if you do have time, do check it out and then get to see what it was about. And the link is right under this particular video at this particular point, and then you click on it, and then you get to watch it, and then you get to see what we indeed were talking about, and what he stands to offer to the Nigerian people, and what he stands to offer to Africa. Not even on the case of fraud do we even come close to the Philippines. Do we even come close to India? Not even to talk about America itself, or the so-called the so-called Great Britain. You know, I don't know why it's still like that, Great Britain. You know, there's no sense of delusion that I've ever seen than the way people get to tell themselves they are, you know, we are Great Britain and stuff like that. It doesn't add up. It doesn't add up. It doesn't add up. And as it is that it doesn't add up on this front, it doesn't add up on our own disposition also as Nigerians and the way we've come to accept things. You know, there's a level of mediocrity we come to accept as a people in terms of the ways things are done, in terms of the way we want our houses to be built, the roads to be constructed, no drainages. Look at Lagos. Lagos is a floating city and they are still building houses. They are still demolishing. People are just having containers painted and blocks without ventilations, without clear access to daylight. If you don't have, there are certain houses if you don't have generator, if you don't have solar, you can't even see what is happening inside. Is that what you call the house built by big man or big woman? No. But that's a conversation for another day. The streets, the roads, and a lot of things, they don't really add up. When you want to become an elite, you become an elite in the right way. You become an elite, a leader who leads others, who raises himself to a particular pedestal upon which from there he takes up the duty, or they take up the duty to see to it that they channel the future of the country in a particular direction, not just with talks and with showmanship, with spraying of money, and we're giving few nairas or few millions to a couple of persons and buying cars and changing them and sending your children to very, very expensive schools. No, elites get to do things like make sure that schools are working, public schools are working, that the public system is working, that people earn enough not to really come to disturb them and come to cry at their doors. These are the things elites get to do. Elites get to look into the arts, invest in culture, invest in festivals, invest in museums, invest in things that uplift the people and the place they find themselves. Not the current situation we have within our sphere, within the place we tend to find ourselves, and within the construct we now come to have as a country, and we now come to call as our own country. We need to do more than we are doing at the moment, and it can get better, but we are not there yet. It can get better, but we are not there yet. And I hope one day we'll get there. I hope one day we'll get to a place where we have publishers publishing magazines and publishing a lot of stuff. I hope we'll get to a particular place one day where we will be publishing lots of issues and lots of materials and lots of books and lots of plays and lots of writings, and we will do them well and we'll do them right. In and about these are the things I hope we come to do, and we come to do well. I am Biringkpa bin Nemeka. I am your brother. I'm a philosopher. I'm a writer. I am rooting for Nigeria. See you next time.